So let's just start with general. What do you think about the lesson we saw today?
That was actually very interesting. Kahn did a very good job today, and like at least kept our attention. And the topic itself is very interesting, also, and very controversial. So,
What's interesting about it? What?
well, just the fact that like I personally believe in freedom of speech, period.
Okay.
While I don't support like statements about like 9/11 being a positive thing, I do believe you should have the right to say whatever you want. So.
Let's go to that example. What you just said.
The
fact that he talked about 9/11.
Yeah, he gave the example that there was a man like promoting 9/11 as a positive event, and the only thing that went wrong with it was that one of the planes fell before it hit a target.
Yeah.
While I don't agree with that statement, I believe it's your right to say that. As long as you're not causing harm to anybody physically by speaking your mind, I don't think your speech should be restricted.
Now, the fact that he used that kind of provocative statement, was that as a lesson? Was that a good thing?
As a lesson technique, it was very good. It obviously, brought it down to earth for everybody.
Okay.
And so, there's a lot of conflicting views in that.
Why is that important to bring it down to earth, like you said? Why?
Because you have to relate it to the class tomorrow. Like otherwise, it's just an abstract idea. So if you don't bring it down to earth, it's a lot harder to understand, and also it's a lot better for keeping the class attention to use that kind of statement.
What other examples can you remember from this lesson we saw today that he did that same kind of bringing it down to earth?
All right. Well, then there was the example where he had the boys voting against that.
Yeah.
The boys would make the girls.
What do you think about that?
Yeah. All right. So he's basically saying in a true democracy, how the minority really doesn't have any rights because it's mostly on a voting system, and how really the United States is actually like a democracy, as set up in a definition.
Yeah.
The minority must be protected, so the girls in that situation, they can't be just do whatever we say just because there's more of us than them.
Yeah. So what was the idea behind that? How does that protection?
Well, the whole point of the protection supposed to work is it's supposed to protect the minority because. I can't think I'm explain this right now.
No, it's okay.
All right. What I'm gonna try to say is that just like in normal democracy, numbers is all that matters. And what we're trying to do, it's about individual rights, not about just the rights as the whole.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying.
Okay. And as a lesson, is that something that you'll remember?
Yes, as a lesson, I definitely will remember that.
Like the whole concept of having those rights for minorities, after you had the example of the boys against the girls and all that, will it help you to remember that idea? Or will it just become maybe more...
No, it will have, just the fact that he involved the class in the whole situation will be very useful for helping me remember the idea.
And why is that?
Because, well, if you're personally involved in the decision, you're personally involved in what's going on in the class, you don't feel like you're just sitting back and watching.
Yeah.
It's a lot easier to keep it in your memory.
Okay. For example, there was another part when he took the girl, I think her name was Dina, and had her stand in front of, and all that part. What do you think about that? Was that also?
That was actually very good, except for the mistake. No, that was a very good example of how freedom of speech can be slurred, just with the fact that you can say something in a certain area. Freedom of speech is about speaking your mind when other people are present. You can't force your views on somebody, but you have the right to be around people for you to hear them. They can choose whether they want to hear you or not.
Okay.
But placing someone, say, in a room where no one else can hear them and saying, "Hey, you can say whatever you want," is not an example of a freedom of speech.
So, and you understand all that based on that example we had in class of her talking, yeah? You felt the idea, okay. What wasn't good about the lesson? What are the parts that you didn't really understand what he wanted from you as students?
I'm trying to think right now. The only negative thing I'd probably say is he takes a lot of time to build up his ideas. So at times you have to pay attention. If you don't pay attention, you get a little lost if you don't, because it takes it's a lot of build up and sometimes theatrics and stuff. So
And how can he improve that? Do you think?
Well, it's just really you have to the examples are very good, but you just have to shorten them and maybe stream them a little bit more. That'd be the only critique I would give.
Okay. How about for example, he uses the board. Does that help, or is that?
The board is just good for guiding ideas, really. When we're taking notes, you're more taking notes on what you hear than what you see on the board. Okay. Because the board is just a guiding plan, and I think it's more to help him organize it in his own mind, than really for us to be copying it by route. Okay. So it is good for guiding your ideas, but it's not about the board. It's about what's going on in this class.
Yeah. Even though, do you remember he gave the example of the separation of government, right? You have the 3 branches. So he had a little drawing there. Yeah. Does it help having that kind of drawing, or is it?
Well, I understand, if we didn't really need it, we're a senior high school, we don't need to be simplified in that way, but it was very, it was useful for understanding the idea in its most basic form. Yeah. So yeah, I believe it was useful.
Yeah. Okay. How does this lesson connect to? You started this course in January, right? That's what I understood.
Yes.
Did this lesson connect to other lessons you had throughout the semester?
Yeah, the lessons about the branches definitely connected to the beginning of the year, where we did go over the branches and how they affect our judicial system and such as that. And Bill of Rights is lessons we've had for years, since last year when we took AP Government, so that so it's it all relates and comes together in the end.
So how does this lesson connect specifically?
Well, mostly it's connecting to the whole idea of the Bill of Rights and the restrictions that people actually do have on their freedom of speech.
And that's something you studied?
Yes, we studied that previously,
lessons.
yes.
Oh, okay. Got it. So why do you have to study it again?
Well, it's actually coming at it, it's not so much it's the same topic, we're coming at it from a different angle.
Okay.
In this idea, like I never really had it, my teacher last year did not explain it in like such a, way with people in the class being into it. That's why I thought it was a lot better this year. Yeah. Just the fact I felt more involved. Okay. But it's an idea that most people, when they think freedom of speech, think, oh, we can say whatever we want. And the truth is, in the United States, you can't say whatever you want. Yeah. And it just helps. It's an idea you have to go over and over again to understand, the truth of it. Like the
Got it. That's smart. Any expectations for tomorrow? Because we're going to be reviewing the lesson tomorrow as well.
I expect it'll be something close to the same thing.
You have homework you have to read, right?
Yes, we have homework to read 2 different cases.
Are you looking forward to that, or does it seem boring to you, or?
Well, we'll see. Usually the readings of the book are pretty good. Okay. And the homework is, it's a lot better to come do your homework and come into class, then you understand. You have a way to something to start from. You're not completely lost in the beginning. Yeah. So I understand why he was assigned the homework, and I believe it will be useful tomorrow. Okay.
Anything else you want to say? Like I said, this is going to go mainly to new teachers. So things you saw in the lesson today that could be helpful.
All in all, I think the most positive thing was the involvement of the class, and the only negative thing is the slight, slow pace of the lesson. But other than that, I was very satisfied. And I felt like I did learn a lot today, and at least I have my own ideas, restructured. Yeah. So
Okay, great. So we'll be talking again tomorrow.
Okay, no problem. Thank you.
Thanks so much.